his own and do not necessarily represent the opinions of this station or any of the show's sponsors.
Welcome back, Financial Issues, AFR Talk. I'm Dan Celia. We're talking about President Obama's speech last night, the economic speech. I guess we'll save all these clips because I suspect it's going to be the same speech as he travels about the country on his new campaign in this economic tour. I was speaking about Obamacare. I was speaking about the fact that Senator Ted Cruz says, we've got to work hard to abolish this. This has got to be a people-driven thing. Folks, we got to be bold and stand up. I don't understand how we can sit back and realize, because we do this all the time, just sit back and think for a moment that we have a president of the United States of America that is president because of a grassroots effort. Yet we sit back and say, well, what are we going to do? We can't do anything. I mean, we can only rally a few people, and we can only... Because of that ability to rally and rattle a few people, we have a president of the United States. We have a governor in Wisconsin that won twice because of a grassroots effort. There is power in the people if we would just stand up, be noticed, be counted, and do something. Listen to what Senator Ted Cruz says about that very thing.
Number one, Obamacare isn't working. And in the words of its lead author in the Senate, Democratic Senator Max Baucus, it is headed towards a major train wreck, which is why President Obama had to admit failure by unilaterally delaying the employer mandate until after the next election, because it's not working and Democrats are scared of electoral accountability. Number two, if we want to stop this train wreck from hitting hardworking American families, the time to do so is now. What the administration desperately wants is to get to January, to get the exchanges in place, to get the subsidies in place. And by the way, they've eliminated any eligibility tests, so they want to get people hooked on Obamacare so that it can never be unwound. If we're going to repeal it, we've got to do so now, or it will remain with us forever. But number three, most importantly, we have an opportunity in the next 68 days to actually defund Obamacare. We've had 39, 40, 41 symbolic votes in Congress against Obamacare. None of those meant a whole lot because none of them did anything. If Republicans stand together, if we get 41 Republicans in the Senate or 218 Republicans in the House who stand together and say, we will not vote to affirmatively fund Obamacare, we can get this done now. But the only way that's going to happen is if the American grassroots, if conservatives come together and demand that of our elected officials, because right now we don't have the votes, but if the people demand it, that's going to change.
We better get demanding, and we better do it quick, folks. 68 days, it's not a lot of time. We better start demanding of our representatives that they get this done. Senator Ted Cruz missed a very important component when he said that if we can get our senators to stand firmly, our representatives in the House of Representatives to stand firmly to defund this legislation, we'll have a chance to sit back, regroup, rewrite it, or do what's necessary to actually read the bill and understand what's in it and understand what the unintended consequences of it are. 68 days to do that. But he's missing something. Grassroots efforts or not, and we need the grassroots effort. That's the most important part because it's up to we, the people, to say, here's how the letter reads. Do it or get fired. Do it or get fired. Let's not forget, folks, that when we write our representatives, when we talk to our representatives, they don't care about you. They don't care about your children. They don't care about your grandchildren. They don't care about the economy of America. They only care about the economy of their campaign fund. That's a horrible general statement to make, but I make it and I stand by it because their fruit has proven that to us. And I'm talking about Republicans. I'm not talking about Democrats. Democrats are guilty of the exact same thing. But right now I'm talking about a grassroots efforts to raise up so-called conservatives to defund it. But here's the thing that Senator Cruz, being a new senator, may be a little naive about. Maybe he hasn't noticed. There's no backbone. There's no backbone. He's making a wild assumption that if the grassroots effort happens and we get a hold of our senators and congressmen and tell them how we feel and we expect them to vote for what is right for the country, it still requires them to have a backbone to listen to the American people. That's the wild card in all of this. It's hard to make an appeal to weasels. But we've got to do it anyway. We've got to try. Do you understand that we've got to go down fighting? And that's the piece that he was missing in that commentary. He also, before I do that, I'm going to play next week some pieces from Harry Reid talking about the debt ceiling. Let's not forget that. That's coming. Another opportunity. An opportunity to defund Obamacare. But listen to the president.
Right now, what we've got in Washington, we've seen a sizable group of Republican lawmakers suggest that they wouldn't vote to pay the very bills that Congress rang up. And that fiasco harmed a fragile recovery in 2011, and we can't afford to repeat that. Then, rather than reduce our deficits with a scalpel by cutting out programs we don't need, fixing ones that we do need that maybe are in need of reform, making government more efficient, instead of doing that, we've got folks who've insisted on leaving in place a meat cleaver called the sequester that's cost jobs, it's harmed growth, it's hurt our military, it's gutted investments in education and science and medical research.
And it was his idea. They're all applauding what he's saying as he articulates his vision and idea of sequester. That didn't come from Republicans, and it didn't even come from Democrats. It came directly from the president to Democrats. And the Republicans gave the president exactly what he wanted. And he has done a masterful job. The Democratic strategists have done a masterful job with the help of the mainstream media. The cowardly mainstream media not calling to task the truth. He's done a masterful job throwing it on Republicans. And here's what Republicans do. They say, well, maybe he's right about that. You know what? Did we do that? Why did we do that? They don't even know. They don't even know. Are they that cowardly? They won't even stand up and fight for at least the acknowledgement that this was his idea, that he put it forth, and the Republicans followed through. Finally, the Republicans voted for something he wanted. It's just, you know what the worst part of that is? People applauding. That's what really gets me. I don't care that they're all Democrats or all liberals sitting there. They're still applauding. Are they that? Are people, I guess they're that blind. Political, yeah, and what are the political programs? Devin, are you on the air saying that? Oh, okay, I didn't know. So, what are the political ineffective political programs that he's going to cut? What are they? And here's the problem. It's not an unwillingness to cut them. It's unwillingness to cut the same things. So what the Republicans say are ineffective, inefficient, and need to be cut, the Democrats won't agree with, and vice versa. The Democrats want to keep all the spending. They don't want to cut the spending that is going to hurt their constituencies or their states. They don't want to cut out a lot of the pork. So a lot of the Republicans don't either. They're never going to come to any kind of agreement. Hey, listen, everything. I said this once to Congressman Mike Pence. Many of you remember him, governor of Indiana. One of my favorite people on Congress. My goal and hope was that he would run for president. He elected to run for governor. But I remember having this conversation with Mike Pence on the air. I don't know if any of you remember it. But I said, look, I don't want to sound too simplistic, but can we just flash back for a second to Ronald Reagan? I got a solution for everybody in Congress, Democrat or Republican. Just come out with a plan and say we're making across-the-board cuts, because I think anybody that has ever worked in government, anybody that's ever been associated with government, anybody that's worked on Capitol Hill or has been a politician can agree that pretty much every department there are inefficiencies and ineffectiveness. So let's have across-the-board cuts of a specific number of every single department in the government, including the Pentagon. I don't know, pick a number, 5%, period. And what that does, and this is what I was saying to Congressman Pence, what that does is it protects you, if you're a congressman or a senator, from the lobbyists that are trying to give you campaign money for specific things, like please don't cut my program. It gives you cover because you can say, oh man, you know, I love your program and I'm the last person in the world that wants to cut your program, but I can't do anything about it. These cuts are across the board. It involves every department. There's nothing we can do about it. It's across the board. So I understand, you know, please still give me some money and for my campaigns, and we'll try to work with you on the next deal. But, you know, I can't. It's across the board. It gives them cover. Mike Pence says it's a great idea. It's what we should do. He agreed. But we're never going to do that. Republicans aren't going to go for that. That's what Ronald Reagan did, you know. Ronald Reagan did that. The only thing that Ronald Reagan did different was that he left defense out of it. He said, we are going to make cuts. If I'm not mistaken, it was 12% over a period of 2 or 3 years on everything except for defense. So that means you've got to lay people off. You got to move people around. You've got to cut certain programs that are, in fact, either cut them because of duplicity or cut them because of inefficiency or cut them because of lack of need. But cut what you've got to cut. There weren't specifics. We cut this, cut this. There wasn't this scalpel kind of cuts as President Obama just outlined. It was across the board. It's not that hard to figure. It's not that hard to come up with. We don't have to sit down and go line by line with a scalpel and start cutting out very specific things. We've got a president that's talking about stop and take meaningless cuts, things that aren't going to impact their inefficiencies, and cut them from government. Well, who can not agree with that? The problem is they're everywhere. Which ones are you going to cut? You cannot agree on which ones they're going to be. This is a ridiculous statement because we got to deal with dysfunction in Washington, starting at the top. Can't get anything done in this dysfunction. And I've said this over and over again. I'll say it again. I don't blame Democrats. I blame Republicans. Yes, Democrats are in control, and I know that we don't have mainstream media on our side and all that stuff. But you can stand up and fight. And we're not willing. They're not willing to stand up for anything. It's pathetic. This goes on and on and on. And one of the things that I particularly found interesting was this another glimpse on a clip, a glimpse of the ideology of this president, of the liberals, and frankly, I believe in Washington. It's a short little clip, but it gives us some very important insights to why the political structure as we have today on Capitol Hill and in the White House are never going to fix this problem unless the people stand up loud and clear and insist and force it. I'll play that clip when I get back. It's only 25 seconds. 866-300-9298. 866-300-9298. AFR Talk Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. We'll be right back.